Word of mouth, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just the sweat equity and the ability to fast forward the know, like, and trust bridge is much greater. All of us are trying to figure out, like, can this person help me? Do they get me? Like, if you say, hey, go talk to Joe, I already know, like, and trust you. So I've already crossed the bridge.
Welcome to Sales Assassins, the podcast that unveils the lost art of word-of-mouth marketing for professionals just like you. We cover everything from building relationships and nurturing connections to overcoming the challenges of modern marketing. You'll learn how to stand out in a crowded market, charge confidently for your services, and create an army of people recommending you without hesitation. Now, let's dive in and make you deadly effective at sales. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Sales Assassins podcast. Joe, how is it?
It's warm and sunny. Warm and sunny.
In your heart? In your heart? Or
cloudy and chance of rain.
Well, hopefully we'll shed a little sunlight on that heart of yours as you talk about everything today. I really wanted to talk today about another foundational piece of Sales Assassins, and really several of the programs you have going on. Like this is core to how you built your business. Correct. and how you're teaching people is this idea of having a word of mouth client acquisition system. And if you watched episode 1, we certainly touched on this, but this is one of those foundational pieces, and it's one that's so overlooked. It's like we're going back in the day when, like, this is what you did, right? There's a reason it's foundational. And it's one of those things that can get so missed, like, oh, yeah, word of mouth. Yeah, I get some of those. Well, there right. is a system. This isn't something that you just have to hope for or accidentally come across.
Correct.
Not only do you not have to leave it up to chance, you better not. You better start with this. That's our thesis out there.
Yeah,
that
foundation.
You've proven. Yeah, that you've proven over and over again. So give me that, really your definition of it and why you feel it's so foundational.
Well, and I say hope's not a strategy. So in Assassins, we'll often have someone say, I hope this works. I hope this. And I say, hope's not a strategy. And you're right. Word of mouth, if you think about it, should be your end game, but it's also your starting point. And there are other things you can do. And I've said this for a long time, and I wish it was mine, but it was one of my old peers and then someone that actually worked with me and for me and everything. And he's a killer. And he would say, everything works and nothing works. So it's not that this works, this doesn't. It's everything works and nothing works. I look at it like how fast, what's the level of effectiveness, and how can I attract more affluent, clients, customers, higher paying, and pillars, the ideal paying client. And if I do anything other than this, I have to go backwards or down in the affluence, because people with a lot of money, they're going to pay you for financial services, taxes, insurance, coaching, luxury, whatever it is. They don't generally respond as well to direct marketing. Like, they're not Googling or watching a video on XYZ. They're getting it from someone just like them. I probably used this example before. When I moved down here to Orange Beach, Alabama, I didn't Google all the things I needed. I talked to the people I'd already developed relationships with, and they say, talk to this person, and I text that person, or we get textroed. That's a new verb if you guys want to steal it, textroed. And there's a text introduction. So I'm cutting out all that time it would take for me to go through and figure that out. But to bring that back to word of mouth, the reason it's so foundational is you don't have to give the variables to, the cold market, to online, to all these things that are really out of your control. And to take that randomness out of it, if you do systemize it, you can build it much faster. So what I'm saying by that is, if you go through pillars, there is a way for you to not just randomly get clients. It's a way for me to identify my, who my targets are, and then figure out in progression how to get to them. So if I do that through word of mouth, I don't have to be, a slave or a subject to all the other things that I have no control over. I'll give you an example of that. I'm not saying you shouldn't run ads or do a podcast or have on social media or any of those things. Those all can work. It's just now, if that's what I'm relying upon, I no longer have control. I can give you example after example of our, experiences with LinkedIn, Google, Facebook, YouTube, all these different things. And the control is by the platform. Whereas you're the platform in word of mouth. I'm the product. So as long as I control me, which I have, if you follow the law of self-responsibility, I control everything about me. How I look, how I talk, how I think. Now, my actual beauty I don't control, but this I have some control over. And let's not kid each other. I'm beautiful. However, when I'm the product and I'm the platform and I build that on that foundation, those things are irrelevant. So I want to start there. And if I have 0 clients or I have 100 clients or 1,000 clients, I want to refine my foundation in word of mouth first. And then I can add in what I call the amplifiers, which would be ads or email campaigns or all those things. And I mean, we're going through all that right now. And my experience with it has been this, and I only talk about things I do. If we started there, we'd starve to death. I would have gone back to corporate America and back to the handcuffs, because if you try to start there, it will take 10 times longer and cost 10 times more because of those variables that are out of your control. Plus, it's so saturated. I mean, differentiation, it's not that you can't do it. It's just, it's the probabilities are lower. So I know I long-winded that, but I'd say it this way. If you master word of mouth, you can go anywhere in any community, any town, any place, any association, and build a business and then do those things. And it doesn't matter what your industry is, because if you're the people we target or the people that we work with, you're the product.
Yeah. And I think there's a additional way to look at this too, is that if those other things work, right? If you get, they're all for attention. If you get attention from ads, social media, doing a podcast, doing video, and it works, and you ping the interest of somebody, well, what happens when they ask about you? Who can they ask, right? Having this in place so that if those things do work, just like you going to Orange Beach, we still want to, man, I wonder if so-and-so knows about this. If he's heard of Joe, let me ask him real quick. So if those things work to get somebody to even ask about you, well, to have this foundation in place to where you are set and solid, that you're showing up, all of these things, and we'll get into, some of these foundations of word of mouth, then all the better, right? Because once again, it's like, if you don't have your product down, or if you don't, like you talk about the hygiene, like if you don't have that stuff down, if all that you do this other stuff and it works and you get somebody's attention and then they ask their buddy about you and they're like, oh, no, there's nothing there. There's nothing. It's,
right.
Oh, no.
Well, someone's not going to purposely bullshit someone else on whether and online, I hate to burst everyone's bubble. I may not even be real. This could be AI. I could just be a bot. Like, who knows? So yeah, it's valuable and you can multiply there and scale and all those words you hear online and everything. However, foundationally, I recommend get to 7 figures, like make $1 million and then do that. Because, if you have responsibilities like kids, rent, house payment, whatever you guys have out there, car payments, like you'll go fast through that dollar amount in the online world. Whereas in word of mouth, it doesn't happen overnight. It's just the sweat equity and the ability to fast forward the know, like, and trust bridge is much greater. This is what you're saying. Like all of us are trying to figure out, like, can this person help me? Do they get me? Yeah. And if you say, hey, go talk to Joe, I already know, like, and trust you. So I've already crossed the bridge. Doesn't mean they always say yes. It just means that work via the person making the introduction and the foundation of word of mouth is when I come across someone that has a problem that Jason solves, I say, go talk to Jason. That's essentially what it is. Or I've seen it enough or heard it enough from everyone. I know to go talk to you. You fast forwarded the bridge and now I'm at is this right for me or not? And it's up to me to make that decision. And as the person providing it, like a service, I don't have to sell it. Like if you sell a service, and you can, and I have, generally there's some buyer's remorse versus me actually wanting what it is that person does and trusting the person who sent me. So the paradigm of the sales changes dramatically. And let's say I'm in Assassins. We had this conversation yesterday, by the way. Someone was trying to overcome, I don't do business with friends and family, which probably was a made up excuse, right? I mean, that's probably just, I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I don't do business with friends and family. It's an easy way to kill that. And they're like racking their brain how to overcome this. I'm like, why would you want to overcome that objection? The first time something goes wrong, what do you think they're going to say? That's why I don't do business with friends and family. So when and that was someone that they kind of outreach to versus it coming from someone says, you need to go talk to this person, because then they're not going to have that object. Do you understand the difference? If I find myself in that overcoming objections phase of the business, it's because the product wasn't dialed in, my word of mouth marketing wasn't dialed in, and now I'm in a sales conversation. You still need that skill set, especially if you're beginning, because you're not going to get as much volume and you need to learn it. But trying to figure out how to overcome objections all the time, you're even telling yourself, like, I have to sell this. And unless you're selling a thing, you should not get into that part of the business. And so dialing that back to word of mouth, generally when someone comes to me via that, it's just a matter of, are we a fit? Which is totally different.
Yeah.
Is what I do something you need or want? And do you gel with me? Like I always tell our people, they pick the advisor, they pick the agent, they pick the coach. That's what they're making a human connection. It's why connectivity or chemistry cannot be commoditized. Your ability to connect cannot be commoditized. They're picking you. You're it. And that's what I think people are starting to understand, and to go, I think people are trying to fast forward that through like stamping out products online. Like I'm just boom, boom, boom. And that's okay at some point. You can productize your service after you've done it repeatedly, made a lot of money, and have a proof set and testimonials and all. You can do that, but starting there is very, it's not impossible. Nothing is very difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I would highly recommend you figure out how to get people to know, like, and trust you foundationally, so that you can never be replaced by anything. AI, platforms, whatever, that's you. So I know I answer long-winded answers, but as you can see, I'm passionate about it.
No, and again, that's why it's foundational. That's why we're covering it in episode 2. It's so important. And so for the folks who are like, okay, I get it. I'm in. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I love it. How the heck do I do this? What are some beginnings to that? And so that it doesn't just, get left up to chance, how do we get purposeful with this?
Well, the first thing you want to do is, if you so there's kind of 2 starting points, and we've got in Assassins, we've got new, doing pretty well, and restarters, kind of that spectrum. The first thing you want to do is assess who you have. Like, I would say this, if you come in or not, assess your pillars. Do I have someone that pays me ideally? Do I have someone that introduces me, or I believe would? Do I have someone that I like and they like me? Do I have someone that listens to me? And have I received an unsolicited referral? Like, just put that screen in front of your book or your clients, or however you describe your client set, and filter them. Start there. Or even if you had clients that maybe aren't paying your ideal, do they have the capability to, if you upgraded them? Start with the people that are already paying you, know, like, and trust you. That's what I'm saying. That's starting point 1. And what most people do is they get that person and then go cold. It's like, oh, I got someone who does this. Now let me go back out into the cold universe and see if this works. And now I start that cycle over way out in the, out there, when you haven't done anything and put a structure around. Now, some people put a client service model in place and things like that. I'm sure they have a technology stack that sends emails and shit. But if you think that's helpful, we need to spend probably one-on-one time, and I'm real expensive there. But really start and filter there. That is the starting point. And if you don't have any, let's say you're at ground zero, and we rarely work with someone at ground zero. Once in a while, someone who's in our immersion that pays us $100,000, we'll put a new person in and we'll try and help them. If you're at ground zero, then there's a totally different process of going to your existing people. And God forbid, do not go to anyone and say, do you know 3 people that can use what I have? Please don't do that ever. That's the worst strategy. It's dated, and it just gives someone work and irritates them, and it's canned and horrific. Don't do it. So there's a whole process of what we call announcement. I call it ACAP, of going to my existing network without being pushy, without being cheesy, without being salesy, and getting a result, a reaction from that group We actually just had a new person in Assassins. I believe he made 216 outreaches. He got 3 coffees, 2 lunches, and a big shout out at Boys and Girls Club. So like what you're doing is you're creating attention that way. And you can do it. I mean, you can use Facebook and all those different mechanisms. He did it via text, but there's kind of 2 routes. So the starting point is make an assessment of where you are. And then we can figure out, okay, there's a progression to this. Where do I go to next? And when you come in, the first thing we have you do is first of all, work on your mindset, because that's 80% of your success. So quickly get your mind dialed in and then start progressing through who are my pillars? What's my pipeline look like? Who am I connected to? What influencers do I already have a relationship with? And then are there big hitters in my stratosphere, universe, whatever, that if I were to make a good connection there, that could change my trajectory? And then how do I get in front of them? And then you progress across that and then start back. So that's how it works mechanically. And that's how you start the system. And then of course there's nuances and iterations and different events and all these things we teach. But the starting point is make an assessment of where you are, because the fastest way to replicate a pillar is by getting it from that pillar. I mean, it's logically, if I already have someone that hits the screen, the fastest way would be that person introducing me to someone just like them. And it doesn't take, years and algorithms and ad spend, which again, everything works and nothing works. Those have their place. And some people want to start there. My experience has been, because we went way past 7 figures before we even thought about it, is that, and maybe it's because I am not great on camera, you guys can be the judge, but I think that starting there, you're either going to take an enormous amount of capital and equity or whatever it is. And most people in Assassins are professionals. So they work with someone or for a firm, or sometimes they're self-employed, but they don't have that type of equity outlay and time frame to make it work in the beginning. Doesn't mean you can't do it at some point. It makes sense. And in the connections I mentioned, that's where you plug that in, because what do we do on social media? We connect. So it's not that it doesn't work with pillars. It's just, if you're going to put time, energy, and money there, there's a timing aspect to it, and get foundational about the word of mouth first. And you may never go there. I know people that'll, may never.
So you're saying, so we start first, kind of like what we went through in episode 1 of this pillar system, like get that down, know even who you're looking for, right? And fit that bucket in. And I think that's, I think we hit it in that episode too, but that's the piece that's part of the mindset, right? That you can decide in the beginning who you want to work with and all, and
right.
Put that down. Even if you are just beginning or in that intermediate step, you got a few clients, you can identify that. So we're putting that down. I want more of these folks.
Right.
And
have a target.
And then we're going to the ones, either existing clients or they fit this bucket perfectly. We're starting that relationship with them, or if they're an existing client, going to them, and you want more people like them, in order to not do the, hey, can you tell me 3 people that you can, to not do that. How do we approach them instead? What is that? Because I think if you haven't done this and you aren't that, relaxed into, I just want to know. Let's just have a conversation. Like, truly just want to know, in that, how do we take that approach to those folks?
Well, there's a skill set we teach, and I learned it kind of, and it wasn't called this, but an iteration of it in 2006. And I've used it now. It's 2024, and I'm in my 4th or 5th business. I'm not even sure. They were so successful, I can't even remember them. No, but and I call it, and we work on this in Assassins. We teach it. If you get this down, like if you just get this down, you're pretty deadly. And it's called SAP, sourcing, arranging, and pivoting. So I source introductions, I source names. I actually train my mind, because tell me if I'm wrong, I train my mind to capture names. So most people, when they're in a conversation, they're thinking of what to say next. Like, what am I'm kind of listening, but I want to get my point. I'm like doing all that, mambo. What I want to start doing is capturing, it used to be called antenna. The person I learned it from would say, have your antenna out. That's how old it is. I would call it now, like, have your Wi-Fi on. Like, think about it. My phone without, the data or Wi-Fi on is just my calculator, calendar. It has no function. But if I turn that Wi-Fi on or I get data driven to it, I can fly the space shuttle, correct? I mean, like, I have the same technology. So I want to do that to my own mind. I want to train myself to be, plugged in on my Wi-Fi on, however that was. And the first thing I want to do is just start practicing. How many names am I hearing in a day? And if I have pillars and I have an interaction with them, a lunch or a review or a meeting, I want to start capturing who they do the things that they like to do with, who they're connected to, and so forth. And we go in depth on how to profile and do all this, but just in the beginning, like, learn that. And then I want to learn how to arrange an introduction. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. And there's the way that makes them say, no way, that too much risk. You're going to try to sell them something. Don't do that. So we teach how to do it without it being threatening to them or risky to them, so that it's natural and, non-abrasive or non-threatening. And then if I do those two things, so if I source and I arrange those introductions, it's then up to me when I'm introduced to someone to pivot to business. I make a seamless pivot to a business conversation. What I don't do is this. Hey, I see you like to do this with Jason. I'd really like to meet him and talk to him about insurance. And then when I meet you, say, hey, can I quote your insurance? Like, don't do that. That would be your last one with that person. Like, that's what not to do. What we're really looking for in that pivot is if I'm truly a great consultant or consultative sales professional, so I have my skill set in hygiene and I'm great at listening and finding what's going on with you, I will pick up, and this takes reps and time, and that's what we hold accountability and coach and everything in our group. I will start to pick up when you express to me the concern I can really help you with, and then I can pivot. Then I can make the pivot to business. You've actually given me permission to put the business hat on versus me leading with that. Look, everything works and nothing works. You want to go direct, you want to go at somebody, have at it. And sometimes we do that. We call it the punt. So if I've tried everything, I'll punt and be like, all right, like I'm out of bullets. I'm out of, I'll just punt and go at you. And sometimes that works too. I do it, but I go through these first because my probability of success is much higher and my probability of a strong relationship and truly meeting the need and those things are higher. So to bring that back, I want to source, I want to arrange, and I want to pivot. And that skill set, it can be done anywhere, anytime, in any place. You can be at the grocery store, it can be on the boat, it can be, it's a transferable skill that is relying upon only this.
Yeah.
And that's why it's deadly.
So you're talking about that pivot in that initial conversation when you're having that talk with somebody, building either that first relationship or a catch up or whatever that is. It's that pivot there, not the pivot like later in the next, whoever they recommended or something. It's pivoting to business in that first conversation.
Well,
right?
It depends on, sometimes it's delayed, giving the environment and your skill set. So we teach it, it's kind of like anything else. For me, I've been doing it so long, I can do it in the moment. It's on my unconscious competence. Like, I don't have to think about it. Like, you say it, I'm going to pop, or sometimes it may not be the appropriate place. So I want to show my EQ and be like, all right, this isn't the place, but maybe some other time I follow up or whatever it is. But the way that you get really good at it is by going out and doing it. And by the way, you're probably going to do it wrong once in a while and you'll learn like what not to do. Just FYI. Like,
yeah.
We try to help you avoid those ripples. However, the best way to do it is to get good at it. And if you want to delay it and say, hey, I was thinking about what you said, or you mentioned this, or you hear it a couple times, there are ways to then readdress it that aren't as, immediate. However, you should aspire to get to, if someone drops the name, I can pivot there. And then there is the pivot to business with that person. So it's kind of like I'm always tweaking and moving along in the process. So it may be with the person I'm trying to get an introduction from. That's one. But when I do meet you, let's say you and I met and you said, man, markets are killing me. Or my rates have gone crazy, or I can't find this Rolex, or whatever it is, you now open the door to me. Now I have a choice. I can pivot there and say, hey, we're here at this cocktail hour, whatever it is, dinner, you name it. This probably isn't the place. That's something I can really help you with. I'd love to grab coffee. Now I've pivoted. I've got you out of the environment, and we can focus on your problem. And I don't know if I can help you or not, but let's find out. And I'm not there to sell you. I'm seeing if what I do is something you want. So if we're a fit, if you focus on the fit and not the close, you'll get higher paying and better clients faster. If you try to start closing people, it's great. I mean, I've seen a lot of people online like make $1 million, $100 million, teach people how to close. Just know what you're doing. You're closing a product. The close here is, are we a fit? So, and going back to pillars, it's real important that you don't just try to close everyone, because you'll close some assholes. And then when things go south, you're going to really regret that, versus transactional based product sales that's direct. It's just not right or wrong, different. And there's a time and place for both. So what I'm saying in that, and I know I've probably rambled a little bit, you want to get the skill set of sourcing, arranging, and pivoting down. Like if you get that one ingrained in you and it's second nature, you'll never run out of people to talk to. Like you'll never, like as good looking as I am, my dance card's full. I've been here a month. And it's just because I've just done it so much. I'm at coffees, I'm at lunch, I'm running the business, I'm meeting, bigger hitters. I'm meeting people I've never, I'm learning things I've never learned. Like I probably told this story. So if I did, forgive me, I went to lunch with a big hitter here in town, and I kept talking about the ocean. And he's like, hey man, we don't call it the ocean. Like it's the Gulf. Like that's valuable info. And I'm not going to get that online. Not that there's anything wrong with online. It's probably how you hear about us. I'm just saying, like, you've got to get out and get eyeball to eyeball, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow with the people that can make a big difference in your business. And it's valuable.
Yeah. And that's where you've mentioned before, the art and the science, right? That's where the art comes in this, especially that pivot part, right? Not only picking up on nuances and when to jump in those pain points, but also that when that pivot should be, because that pivot might be 6 conversations later,
correct,
right? And bringing it back. Or it could be right in that moment, and making sure that you're not delaying the pivot out of fear, because I think that'll happen in the beginning of like,
there's some call reluctance.
Yeah. But also not pivot before it's actually time in that moment. And I think there's some pressure. And like in that example you gave of like, this is something I can help you with. This isn't the place to talk about it. But if you want to have a coffee, to delay that and then go back to like, man, the steak is amazing. Whatever. There's some, I don't know, there's some trust built up in that. And you come across as confident and you know what you're doing, and not that pushy person.
Correct. Well, it shows emotional intelligence enough, even if they're excited about talking about it, that, some people tell their, the stories they shouldn't tell outside their house at a cocktail party. So, and they get excited and they want to talk about it, and it's something that's important to them, or it's a pain. So they get going. You look like a consummate professional when you're like, hey, I get it. This is not the place. Let's grab coffee next Tuesday at 9 and I can help you with that. I'd love to. And then they look around, they're like, oh my God, there's 20 people standing here. So it's really, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and something else awesome happens in that moment is that time between that cocktail party and the next day, 2 days later, they're thinking about you and they cannot wait. Like if they're so excited and they wanted to tell you in the moment and then, oh, thank goodness I didn't,
Anticipation.
It's on their mind. And that's where, in my opinion, that's where the online presence, these things, having this stuff so that they can maybe go down that rabbit hole a little bit and things like that and build that trust. Or, if you've built this up in your community, they may ask somebody about you in the meantime, or they may go find these things. And that's just building. So when you have all these on top of each other,
it's a good 1-2 punch. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I'm looking at it now, it's like, I want to do well in online, and I want to, if the world comes apart, I know with great certainty, I can go anywhere, any place, anytime and build a business. And I don't need anything other than this vessel of awesomeness. That's it. And so that's so valuable because, where I came from, my mentor called me yesterday and he's still there and I love him and we're great friends and, but he's still in the corporate deal.
Oh, you mean like there at Maryland?
Yeah. And I know you might see this. So if you do, man, I love you, but he's still there. I'm not there. I'm not complaining and worried or all these things, because I can go do this anywhere, any place, anytime, in any geography, any town. And, there still is some value to a community that's physical. Like the who's who still, I don't know if anybody knows this, but they still get together. They still go to the black tie events. They still go to the galas. They still support the community. I mean, it's one of those things that if you pay the price to get great at it, no one can take it from you. My old man, and he's kind of a legend. He's the only person I've ever known to be a CEO, a president, and a doctor. I'm just saying, he has all three. He'd say, and I hope he sees this someday because I think the world of him. He's from Albany, Illinois, which is essentially Kentucky. And then he grew up in South Carolina. So he'd say, Joey, he talks like Nolan Ryan, by the way. That's what I hear. Or Nolan Ryan talks all my day. He said, Joey, if you can sell, if you can lead and you can recruit, you can do it anywhere. So I just learned how to do that through word of mouth. And I know
That's
I'm
awesome.
not beholden. And it isn't, by the way, there are no silver bullets and everything works and nothing works. Get this one done first. Make this your foundation. And by the way, if you do your homework, look online where everyone wants to get. They want word of mouth. They start in the coldest part of the universe. They move to paid, and then they want word of mouth. So why not start there if you can do it and you have the time, energy, and talent? And it's, it doesn't take great skill. I've seen some people do it that are just great with people, and that's about it. They're just really good with people and they're consistent. So,
yeah, I love it. I think we've painted that picture for folks very well. We've preached the gospel, I think, here for folks, and we got some converts. So I love it. There'll be info here and certainly how to get more, how to jump into Assassins if they want to, and certainly get out there and I would say start practicing this stuff.
Yeah. We teach them a fast start, and it's called FDS. And you start with effing doing something and then bring it back.
I love it. Awesome. Joe, thanks so much, man. And we'll see you all on the next one.
All right. Thanks, Jason.
In a sea of endless digital noise, your ability to connect and generate authentic word of mouth is your deadliest weapon. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to break through to the next level, the principles we discuss here are your blueprint for success. It's all about being the most trusted and valued in your network. To maximize what you've learned today, visit joinsalesassassins.com to see how you can become a true sales assassin in your industry. Until next time, keep sharpening your skills, expanding your network, and remember, in the world of sales, the true assassins strike silently but effectively by doing what nobody sees coming, building genuine connections and powerful relationships. Stay deadly, stay authentic, and we'll see you on the next episode of Sales Assassins.
This show is powered by Media Leads. To get your next great podcast produced, go to MediaLeadsCo.com.